Hi guys. So today I wanted to make a video for you all, a video request. I got a request from two of my awesome subscribers, May, also known as Meep4, and Jarrett Vampirus Jarrett 666, and they both wanted to know the same thing. How did I become goth? How did I get interested in the gothic subculture? Actually, this is quite an interesting story that I had intended to talk about, but I don't know, I just didn't know when I was gonna do it. But I agree that it is a story that needs to be told. So first of all, I really truly feel that I did not choose to be goth. I truly believe that I was that way from birth. Even as a child, I liked strange and unusual things. Um, Things that at the time people were just saying, well, she's a little girl, she does weird things, it's not a big deal. But looking back over my life, I feel like it's pretty obvious from a young age that I was going to grow up to be goth. Um, I liked skulls, like when I was a kid, but I never told anybody because I thought it was weird. You know, I didn't grow up in a family that encouraged much of anything, really. Um, we weren't very religious people. We weren't very political people. We weren't very this. We were a very boring family. So, um, I really didn't start getting truly interested in it until I'd say about like sixth grade is when it started. Like, I wouldn't even call it my baby bat years, but it was when I really started to like look into the clothing style, look into the music. Obviously, without my parents knowing, because again, they weren't going to take it too well. And then I think it was in 10th grade that I really started to get interested in dressing that way. Um, which I kind of probably, I would have probably started sooner, but I knew I was going to get a lot of hesitation and dislike from my parents because I can distinctly remember in ninth grade, we were at the mall and I saw somebody dressed up goth, like really hardcore goth, and I said, no, they look so cool, and my parents immediately jumped all over me and said that, no, that person's a freak, and we don't raise freaks, and if you ever dress like that, then we would kick you out. Like, no kidding. So, I don't really blame myself these days for not dressing the way I felt comfortable sooner. But, so yeah, I was like 10th grade. I finally said screw it because I had a boyfriend at the time who was goth. And the reaction, the first time he came to my house, the reaction from my parents wasn't as bad as I thought. And I didn't know if maybe it was because it wasn't their child and his mother was standing like right there. But it wasn't that intense as they said they would react if I were goth. So, my boyfriend, he kept telling me, if I feel comfortable that way, I should dress that way, and da, da, da. He would take me out and we'd go shopping, and he'd have me listen to like goth bands and things like that. So it was kind of like my escape. That's when I really felt comfortable around. I felt comfortable was around him because I could do the things that I wanted to do. And then I kind of sprouted off on my own about. We dated for a total of 8 months, so I would say within the last 2 or 3 months that we were together, I really started dressing that way, and that's when I found out, which this is a very strange coincidence. That's my grandmother. She lived right next to us, like she was our neighbor. And she would see me dressed that way, and she'd always tell me, she's like, you're turning out just like your father. You're turning out just like your father. And I really couldn't understand that, like, over the way I dressed. I could understand, like, oh, you look like your father, or you have the attitude like your father, but I couldn't understand why, like, when I would dress that way, that she would say I look like my father. So I asked her one day, and it turns out that when my father was my age, he was goth. But he had such a problem with it. But he himself was goth, and I even found out like later on, my dad still is goth, because I don't think you ever grow out of that. Like, I used to steal his clothes all the time, like his skull bandanas, and he would buy like little Grim Reaper statues and things like that. But I couldn't do that. It was really contradicting. But so even knowing that my father was goth, I still had like a lot of resistance. And then, I kind of conformed for a period. I think I dressed that way for about 6 months, and I said, screw it. I'm just gonna wear what they want. I let my mother dress me because there was a lot of problems in my family growing up, and a lot of problems personally I had. I tried to commit suicide in that time period when I was still finding myself as goth. And so I just decided to conform because I thought it would make me feel better overall. And I thought if everybody, accepted the way that I looked, then I would feel better about myself, but I really didn't. So got back into dressing that way when I moved out of my parents' house when I was 18. I had turned 18 that April, and I moved out of my parents' house that June. Um, I had a live-in situation because I was a home health aide, and I had a live-in situation with my best friend's mother. My friend had actually killed herself about 2 years previous, so I moved in there to, for company reasons and, to help her. I was being trained as a home health aide, so I was helping her with her medical problems. She had major medical problems. And at first, she thought it was a little weird that I was slowly integrating all this weird stuff into my wardrobe, but then, she accepted it. She really didn't care. Like, sometimes when we go out, she would be like, I can't believe I'm going to be seen out with you, but it was more of like a joke. She was a very sarcastic person, and a very nasty-ish sarcastic person. So she really accepted it. My parents, they would make, and even to this day, my parents still make like snide comments about it here and there. But for the most part, they kind of accept it because they realize that I'm an adult and, I'm not gonna, they can't control me anymore. But if I was living under their roof, sure as hell, it didn't matter what age I was, they would be really against it. I wouldn't be allowed to. But, yeah, that's my story. I have conformed to society's ideals more than once because, I think it takes a long time. It does, not think. It does take a long time to find out who you are. And during the time period when I was really deep into finding myself, I did conform a couple times. But I always ended up throwing things out or giving it away because, I don't like bright yellow shirts because I had some bright yellow shirts, and I don't like colorful things. So, but that's my story. So I'll talk to you guys later. Love you. Bye.